Jean-Michel grew up in France. He spent 40 years in California, has traveled the world his entire life.
I'm often in the Midwest, and I'm often on the coastline. The highest enthusiasm that I find is away from the ocean. Okay? People are curious, they want to know, and because of that, I think they are the ones who can take the best actions.
A surprisingly treacherous passage along America's shore lies not at the sea, but in the Great Lakes.
I mean, those lakes are very, very important. They are the roots of the oceans, and if you cut the roots, you're hurting the ocean. Everybody's talking about emission of CO2. Nature has been able to handle a lot of the CO2, but now there's too much. So as a result, you have a problem of acidification of the ocean. And that's a real problem because it's going to affect the structure of the coral reefs, the structure of like lobsters, crabs, shrimps, and it may be to the point where it will melt away. So it's really very scary when you look at the projections. But now we know, we didn't know. Acidification is something we're talking about for the last 2 or 3 years only. So I think we may be able to move that and change that. Then the other issue is fishing. We're taking more than nature can produce. We've done that on land, but we're doing it to the ocean now. So we need to switch from better management of what's left, and hopefully some species will recover, number one, and start farming. And we need to farm seaweeds and herbivores, just like we've done on land. And I think we can, and we will see that happen in the next few years. So there's good news there. And then the other issue is we need to protect the coastal habitats, because the coastal habitats are very critical for the reproduction of many species, for the protection of some species, for some predators to find food, for birds to find food when they fly on their migration and stop over and so on. So on top of that, from the human point of view, the coral reefs and the coastal plants, which can be looked upon as being smelly and unpleasant and so on, they really are critical for the protection of the coastline for bad storms. So if you have a very bad hurricane or a bad storm and that protection is no longer there, people are going to be washed away. Their houses are going to be washed away. Half of Florida is going to be underwater. I mean, it's very important to leave those coastal habitats alone for many reasons. And then the third issue is we need to stop using the ocean as a universal sewer, if you want. There's everything we see, all the garbage, which we're very sensitive about, and we want to stop doing that. But what about what we don't see? And what we don't see are toxins like chemicals and also heavy metals. And they accumulate in the ocean, they accumulate in the food chain, they accumulate in some species of fish that we harvest and we bring back in our plates. And that is, today we know it is already affecting us. It's affecting us in many ways, and particularly young people. Whether it's their attention span, their thyroid, their cancer rate, in adults, now we're finding out the sperm counts is down. We're finding out that young ladies who want to be pregnant have a much harder time than they used to in the past. So we know where it's coming from. So we need to change that. There's always been migrations, long before we even showed up on the planet. What our responsibility is the acceleration of the disappearance of certain species. And the fact that we're responsible for that ultimately affects the quality of life of us, our quality of life. It's not the issue of the ocean and the birds and the trees, and it's us. At the end of the day, say, what does it do to us? How can we change it so we can still enjoy the quality of life that we had, that we may lose? You know, look, think about an airplane. An airplane is kept together with rivets. All these rivets are species. Every time we lose a species, we're removing a rivet from the airplane. And the plane is still flying. But do we want to reach the point where we're going to remove one too many rivet and the plane is going to fall apart? No. I mean, unless you're stupid. But most people wouldn't even think about getting there. So we need to make sure that we don't reach that point. And it's not the issue of the planet. It's the issue of our species. What do we want? And we have the choice. And that's what's great. When you don't know things, it's very difficult. But now we know more than we've ever known, and we are going to learn even more in the next few decades. So we can manage our impact on the planet so we can protect the quality of our lives. And we can do it.